well, I should say, are we on YouTube, Catherine?
Yes.
Okay. The meeting is being broadcast on YouTube. That has just been switched on now. So hopefully anyone that wants to watch it is now watching and can see us. Apologies to everyone that we're running a little bit late. There was a technical issue with one of the officers who is quite essential to the meeting. So we've just had to wait for that, but we are all up and running now. The meeting will be recorded as per usual under the usual rules. So if anyone wants to listen to it afterwards, they can. But please be aware that it is actually recorded for any checking purposes until it is deleted. First item on the agenda, and this is for committee members. Oh, sorry, I would just revert back and say that there is a item number 4 on this is a call-in item, and we do have and I will be allowing councillors to speak on that who are not as members of the committee. I would actually ask that you do keep your speeches to the point on that and try not to be repetitive. So hopefully I don't have to tell you off or anything on that as we get to it, but yeah, hopefully it's a good debate. Item 1, the minutes of the last meeting. Committee members, are we to approve those minutes as presented to you? Can I just have a show of hands in front of your face just so I can see that?
I think I was here, I can't remember.
Councillor Ritchie, are you able to vote on that? Councillor Ritchie, are you with us?
My apologies. Hello?
Hello, Councillor Ritchie.
Yeah, my apologies. I'm using an iPad that is unfamiliar to me.
Okay.
I may need to struggle finding how I get in and out. However, yes, I recall seeing the minutes. I should warn, I don't have any of the papers in front of me at this meeting, but I'll do my best to at least participate in the bits in here for. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it's good to see you here anyway. I hope you're feeling okay. So on that basis, the minutes are approved and will be signed at a point in time as and when I can get hold of them at the council offices. I hope that's okay with it. Apologies for absence. I have not had any apologies. Sorry?
None received.
None received. So nothing from Councillor Harrington Carter there. So okay, we'll move on. Declaration of interest. Has anybody got any interest to declare? Remember that you can actually declare those at any point during the meeting prior to it being discussed, of course. So if there's any interest that anyone wishes to declare, please say now or remember to do it as we get to the pertinent item in the meeting.
No.
Okay, no interest to declare. Thank you very much. The next item, item number 4, is a call-in of the statutory group decision to dispose of land at Eastern Way, Daventry, to discuss the call-in and report to council. So this is a very, very rare event. It doesn't often happen, but obviously the Scrutiny and Improvement Committee is here to determine call-ins and the actions taken. Now, the way that the call-in, as I see it and understand it after discussion with officers, the way this works, the call-in is not on whether the decision whether it's right or wrong. We're not here to decide whether Eastern Way should or shouldn't be disposed of. What we are here to decide is, was the information presented to council correct? Was it all above board? Should there have been anything else? Are we happy? And does this committee want to make any recommendations to council surrounding that initial paper that was actually presented to strategy and the vote that was taken upon it? So they're the parameters that we're working to. I'd ask anyone speaking to keep to those parameters. And as I said at the beginning, if we try not to be repetitive and keep to the points, and hopefully hopefully we get to a good discussion. So I'll throw it open. It's probably better if we hear from the people that actually raised the call in, which is Councillor Wendy Randall and Councillor Catherine Lomax. So I'll ask either one of you to speak first if you just want to show me who's going to speak, and then we'll call you in. Okay, Councillor Randall, your hand is raised. Can I just say to councillors, if you do want to say anything, if you could use the blue hand raised as has become the convention, and we'll try and keep an eye on that and get you into the speech. So please don't speak over. Please mute your microphones when you're not speaking. It is really helpful. And so we have Councillor Wendy Randall. I'll give you the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I did send over some information to the monitoring officer and Maria Taylor earlier on, but if I can go, I've got quite a few sections to go through. Do you want me to go through section one by one, and then, you know, for people to talk on that section so they don't lose their way, or how would you like me to?
Yeah, if we, I think if you want to do it section by section, and we'll take questions after each section. So if you tell me when you get to the end of it, and then,
right, okay.
And then if there's any blue hands raised, then we'll pass them. We'll get those questions in.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So number one, I've got section 4.1 background. It is clear the DFE's case for a new secondary school was not based on student numbers, but on the perception that children in Daventry have poor levels of access to a good secondary school. The paper refers to this conclusion having been reached in 2016. It is unacceptable that a proposal of this magnitude should be presented on the basis of an opinion that was formed 4 years ago without any attempt to assess how the situation may have changed. Council should be provided with whatever data exists, which might enable the council to form an up-to-date view. So that's my first section, just on background.
Okay.
So do you want me to carry on, or?
Yeah. Simon Bowers, I can see your blue hand is raised. So if you want to raise a point there.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just point out that the July report did provide up-to-date information, set out quite clearly what the current published performance and other data about the schools were.
Simon, can I just clarify? Was that based on 2016 figures? Was that the most up-to-date? Was that the most up-to-date figures?
Most up-to-date data was the January 2020 school census and the exam results from 2019. Obviously, exam results from 2020 were not available, and in fact, they won't be published anyway because of the unusual circumstances that surround the 2020 results.
So was the decision based on those 2020 results, or was it based on the 2016 data as presented?
The minister, as we understand it, took a decision. 3 ministers have dealt with this over the time. The most recent ministerial decision was earlier this year, and that was taken on the basis of current data then.
Thank you. Councillor Randall, do you want to proceed?
Okay, section 2. While summary performance statistics and Ofsted headlines may be a matter of record, from discussions with the existing schools, it seems clear that the information presented does not recognise the tremendous improvements the schools have been making in recent years. Given DDC's past claims about its support for local schools, it is surprising that the schools were not invited to contribute a supplementary report on their progress, reference university places, etc. DDC should now invite the schools to submit a report which should be made available to all councillors before a decision is taken.
Does anyone have any comments on that?
Chairman, I think there may be a practical difficulty. I'm not sure how the blue hand is raised while we're in this mode.
Yeah, I've just seen that. I've just noticed that. In fact, it was difficult for me to see. Right, I've got a raised hand showing from Councillor Ritchie. Did you want to speak, Simon?
I will happily wait for the members, don't worry.
Okay. Councillor Ritchie, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. My understanding is what we're doing as councillors is deciding what information we want to see before us. I'm quite sure that the knowledge that Simon Bowers has could enable him to speak all night on these issues. But is it not more appropriate that this is a discussion of councillors dissatisfied, at least some of us dissatisfied, with the information that's been presented by officers, and therefore what we're here for is to have a discussion as councillors as to how we feel that we should approach a council meeting, what information we need to actually present. So I just feel that if we're going to involve officers in responding to every concern that we express, we're going to be here for a very long time.
Okay, Councillor Ritchie, I understand what you're saying, but it's and it is indeed up to councillors to decide at the end of this debate how we want to proceed going forward with a recommendation to council. And that may include some of the items that you just said. But I do think it pertinent that that we do get two sides of that, so we can get a balance and understand it. Now, if this is going to go on and on and on and go round and round in circles, then fair enough. But I think it's quite legitimate to have a response if we're saying that information was omitted. I think it only fair that the author of the report does have just a right to reply in this forum to either explain why, because it could be that as a councillor you think, okay, that's fair enough, I didn't need to hear it. So we'll proceed as we are, and I said if it starts to get out of hand, it's up to me to control that. But thank you for your input. So does anyone else need to speak on item 2 as presented by Councillor Wendy Randall? No? Councillor Randall, please proceed to your next item.
Okay. The report argues that there appears to be a structural issue at work which has limited the ability to change the nature of secondary schooling in the town. The report, however, does not offer any explanation of what this claim means. If schools in Daventry indeed face structural problems, it is surely necessary for those problems to be thoroughly understood before major public expenditure on another school. Without more analysis, alternative and simpler solutions may be overlooked, and we may find Daventry with yet another school facing structural issues, whatever they may be. DDC should postpone any decision until a much more detailed study of the nature of the problem we're trying to tackle can be presented to councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. Councillor Robertson, please proceed.
Yes, Chair, thank you. I'm a little confused as to what the word structure means in this instance. Maybe that's Councillor Randall's point, but I really don't know what is meant by the word structure. Is it the infrastructure we're talking about? Probably not. Or is it the way the schools are run?
I think that's what Councillor Randall is asking, Councillor Robertson.
Well, I'm asking the same thing in that case.
Well, to a degree, Councillor Robertson, we're not, as Councillor Ritchie said, we're not really here to necessarily answer those items, but wondering whether they should have been actually answered in the paper. if the paper says there are structural issues at work, then maybe we councillors should, I think when Councillor Randall's argument is that we should be aware of what those structural issues are. But I'm second guessing that as chair, but I'll hand back to Councillor Randall.
Shall I carry on now with section 4 or?
Yeah.
Okay. Section 4 now. Underlying the report, there appears to be an assumption that a new school will perform better than the existing schools. No evidence, however, is offered. Comparisons may be made with Spon, but Spon School hasn't been inspected since 2012, and its Progress 8 measures have declined from well above average in 2017 to average in 2019. Of the Cove Learning Trust, other schools, 2 are good, 2 have not been inspected yet, and 1 requires improvement. Furthermore, Spon serves a very different population to schools in Daventry. 32% of pupils at Daventry secondary schools are entitled to the pupil premium, which is way above the national average of 27%. A new school would be obliged to use similar admission criteria to existing schools and would therefore face the same challenges. And no evidence has been presented to support a view that a new school would perform better. Research into 3,000 secondary schools by the Nutfield Foundation found that attending a good secondary school only adds a small amount more value than attending a bad secondary school, and concludes that school choice may not be as important as the policy debate sometimes suggests. Moreover, a new school building is no guarantor of success, as Daventry discovered from his experience with the UTC. Councillors should be provided with an objective analysis of how a new school might raise standards across Daventry, not mere speculation.
Does anyone else want to speak on point 4?
Chairman, if there are no members wishing to speak, I think it would be fair to essentially give Cove Learning Trust its right of reply, as it were. I have a statement.
Sorry, Simon, I didn't quite catch that.
It would be fair, I think, to give Cove Learning Trust, who are the sponsors of this bid, their airtime. Now, Jamie Clark, who is the chief exec of the trust, is actually watching us now and is available should he be required. But I have a statement from him that I'm happy to read out if that will be helpful.
I will let you do. I will let you do that, Simon. Just so we've got some background information.
He says Cove Learning Trust has 10 schools as part of the Multi-Academy Trust. Spon was last inspected in 2012 and the judgment of outstanding remains until next inspected. Ofsted does not base the grading of the school just on outcomes. A wide range of other factors are taken into account, including personal development, behaviour, the quality of teaching and learning, and the quality of the leadership. TLT is determined to ensure that all pupils get excellent provision that leads to outstanding outcomes. Most of the other schools that have joined TLT have been struggling to achieve this previously. However, all of the trust schools have made significant improvements for its pupils. The schools without Ofsted judgments are because DFE treats those as new schools when they join the MAT, the Multi-Academy Trust. Those are inspected from year 3 onwards of joining. Some of our schools have proportions of pupil premium children way in excess of the national average and those in Daventry. For example, Grace Academy Darlaston has 36% of pupils and Grace Academy Solihull 38%. Outcomes for those pupils is well above the national average and frequently in excess of all pupils nationally at GCSE. And finally, he says, TLT has a track record of adding value to the outcomes pupils achieve, even when the school has come from a low starting point. TLT will bring this experience to the new school in Daventry.
Thank you, Simon, for that. Can I just ask, have you got a similar statement from any of the Daventry schools on that one?
No, because they're not being challenged by Councillor Randall's statement.
Okay, thank you.
May I just come back and say this is the sort of thing that should have been asked. You know, my point in the beginning, no statement was asked from officers from the 2 senior schools in Daventry So you've got no comparison. I've looked at comparison data, and the comparison data from Swan School to the Daventry schools just does not add up. It is vast. It is from one end of the spectrum to the other. So I feel that, you know, if you're going to take on board one, you need to take on board, you know, something from the two schools. So,
it's not, we're not here. Yeah,
no, I know, but these were my point, that it wasn't available when the decision was made. So, you know, these are my points.
Please proceed. Oh, sorry, Councillor Robertson, did you want to speak?
Well, again, Chair, thank you. Call me stupid if you like, but I fail to understand how you can determine how well a new school will do under any measure. It's a new school, and only time will tell you.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Councillor Ritchie, you have your hand raised. Councillor Ritchie, if you want to speak, if you hopefully find the button on the iPad.
My apologies, Stuart. I say with this iPad, I'm having difficulty putting it in. Look, the point I wanted to raise, the information that Simon Powers has provided may be the appropriate information that should be, should be put before the council meeting, or whatever meeting we decide we refer our recommendations to. We're not here to get involved in the actual discussion of the, the justification of the claims. We're talking about what it is, what information, what evidence we need as councillors. We don't need to actually receive that information here this evening.
Okay, Councillor Ritchie, I understand what you're saying. I'm sorry to come back to it. It's quite a difficult one, and I think for members to decide, it's there's a fine line here, and I think at some points it is just pertinent to hear what information might possibly be available if you so wish to go forward with requesting that information, if you see what I mean. So so let's proceed as we are. I'm happy with that, and I don't think we're overburdening everybody with time. So if nobody else has got anything to say, because I can't see everybody's all participants. So if anyone else wants to speak, if you could shout out. Otherwise, we'll continue with Councillor Randall.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The report notes the number of students attending the existing schools, but it does not state the capacity of each school. There have been claims that there are many hundreds of spare places in the two schools, but councillors need to be up-to-date figures if they are able to assess the need for a new school in terms of student numbers. Okay.
Any comments, anybody? Any questions? Okay, we'll proceed. Councillor Randall.
A principal argument for a new school is that it might reduce the number of students being educated outside of the town. While it is not unreasonable to assume that some parents might be tempted by a new building in Daventry, it is possible that numbers attending schools elsewhere might be more a consequence of 1, outdated perceptions of the existing schools, 2, a sense that some pupils may prosper in a school serving more affluent areas where some may believe there is a stronger commitment to academic success, 3, the desire for particular courses only available elsewhere. Should these be significant reasons for students being schooled outside the time, then a new school building is unlikely to make much difference. The report's analysis, simply based on population statistics, is wholly inadequate. DDC should seek a better understanding of the educational and social factors involved, and this should involve an in-depth consultation with parents.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. Has anyone got anything to say on that point? Okay, Councillor Randall, please proceed.
Daventry is not a part of Northamptonshire that faces a shortage of school places. I have seen a table from NCC showing the needs across the county with acute shortages in parts of Northampton and Corby. As a consequence, Northamptonshire County Council has expressed reservations over the siting of the new school. The notes that the table point out in Daventry District is there's a higher level of surplus capacity at Daventry Town schools, and it marks a lack of capacity in Moulton and Guilsborough areas. So DDC, which has responsibilities for the whole district, must explain the rationale for seeking a new school in the part of the district which least needs it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Randall.
The report makes the point that Daventry's population will grow and that a time may come when a further school is needed. The main increase is likely to come from the NUSU, the Churchfields, but it will be many years before this site is fully developed and has a significant number of secondary school age students. To enable councillors to assess what priority a new school should be given at this time, they should be provided with a realistic analysis of how student numbers might rise over the coming decade and beyond.
Anyone got any points? I can't see any, so please proceed.
Legislation requires the Secretary of State to publish an assessment of the potential impact of a new school on existing schools in the area. DDC should not proceed with a project of this magnitude before the impact assessment is available.
Chairman, if I might make a factual observation, I think Councillor James should speak.
Oh, certainly, Simon, please proceed.
It will be helpful to know in which legislation Councillor Randall believes this obligation exists. We can't find it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but certainly we haven't been able to track it down. That said, DFE tell us they do have a practice of carrying out impact assessments, and indeed they did carry out an impact assessment for this school, and they will carry out a further one before the final decision to proceed is taken. Those impact assessments, DFE standard practice, are never published until after the Minister takes the final decision. So they will not disclose that to us until that time.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chair. I'm aware of impact assessments and the requirement to have impact assessments because of information that reaches through DDC at the time that the UTC was being considered. And the papers from the Department of Education makes it clear that there is an obligation on the Secretary of State to produce such a document. It seems absolutely crazy to suggest that we don't have an impact assessment of what we might be doing until we have actually done it.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Anyone else got any comments? If not, Councillor Randall, please carry on.
The report, section 4.4, notes that a new school has the potential to destabilise the current schools and result in a school becoming unviable. The report acknowledges that a closure would be sad for those involved and expresses the hope that care would be taken of both pupils and staff affected. If councillors are to take responsibility for a decision that could lead to the closure of a school, they should be made fully aware of the possible implications for many students whose education and future opportunities might be seriously damaged.
Anyone got any points on that? Councillor Robertson.
Well, it seems to me to be the same as the previous question.
What do you mean, Councillor Robertson?
Well, the point's exactly the same, really. The impact statement's not available to us. Why not? Because the ministry won't allow us to see it until after they made the decision, and we simply have nothing to say on this second point because we don't know.
Thank you. Councillor Randall.
Although the report makes no attempt to assess the danger of the school becoming unviable, the figures presented appear to indicate that the risks may be high. If a new school can accommodate 1,050 pupils, it is possible that some places will be taken by students who would otherwise have been educated elsewhere. It is likely, however, that many, perhaps most, Daventry parents will opt for a school with a new building rather than an old one. If, say, 2/3 of places at the new school are taken by students who would otherwise have attended one of the existing schools, the numbers in the existing schools will drop by 40%, and such a reduction would mean a serious loss of income, leading to fewer teachers and much more restricted range of subjects being taught, putting the school into a downward spiral that must end in closure. Councillors should be provided with a proper assessment by DDC of the risks of the school becoming unviable. And another point is that I have seen a statement from the MP saying that it is healthy competition. I do not look at this as being healthy competition. You know, it's just sad.
Okay, Councillor Randall. Does anyone have any questions or points to raise on point 11? If not, please proceed, Councillor Randall.
The field at Easton Way is, in the view of some, one of Daventry's most important assets. It is an open green area, and DDC is committed to protecting green spaces, which provides an attractive break between the town centre and the estates to the north. Some have compared building on it as equivalent to building in London's Royal Parks or Cambridge College lawns. Whilst these are subjective views, councillors should be provided with a background on the history of residents' attachment to the field, including the 2004 vision consultation, in which only 94 questionnaires were returned with responses to a question which focused on the canal arm. The Daventry's future consultation, in which 2,035 questionnaires were returned, demonstrated overwhelmingly support for using the field as a green area for recreation and sport. Although not available when the report was first submitted to Strategy Group, councillors should be made aware of the 765 residents who signed an online petition in support of retaining the site as a field, especially for recreation.
Councillor Robertson.
Well, quite frankly, that analogy is completely over the top.
Sorry?
I say the analogy is completely over the top, comparing it with the halls of education in Cambridge or the Royal Parks in London. Ridiculous.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Councillor Randall.
Maybe not how Daventry pupils see it, but it's a very valuable piece of land, daily used by schools as well. Section 13. The report notes that the site for a secondary school was identified in plans for the North East Daventry urban extension. Although the developer has been making slow progress with this project, councillors need to be informed about the state of negotiations and the likely timescale for building a school on it, should that be considered a better option.
Councillor Robertson. Okay. Any other points arising from Councillor Randall's presentation?
Chairman, David James wishes to speak.
Sorry?
David James wishes to speak.
Okay. Councillor James?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Most of what Councillor Randall has just said crosses over into each other and basically can be summarised into one or 2 points, really. And I think I ought to make clear right now that we're going off on a tangent here. Daventry District Council is only the provider of the site. We are not setting up a new school. We are not making specific comments about particular schools in Daventry. We are providing the information that we know in order to assist us in disposing of this site to the DFE for the purpose of a school, if the DFE thinks that's appropriate. And there are a number of checks and balances here. It's quite a protracted outcome before any third secondary school can be set up in Daventry. I mean, there's the most obvious one, which of course is that deals with site specifics and so on, which Councillor Randall hasn't spoken about, and that is that planning permission would need to be obtained, and that is entirely out of the hands of anyone except the planning committee itself. That's another matter, and I won't progress that further. But we do know that the Secretary of State has already carried out an impact assessment. We don't know the contents of that impact assessment, and we're not entitled to know the contents of that impact assessment. What we do know is that Daventry people have been voting with their feet for some years and sending their children outside of Daventry.
Councillor James, sorry to stop you, but you did start by saying that this is about the transfer of the land. So I'll let you carry on, but please.
I'm just explaining the procedure.
It's about the information being provided. So yeah, carry on.
At no time have we made any direct criticism of the schools at all. It was just a structural problem was identified, that's all, and left at that. And that was made clear at the July meeting. So that has already been done. Thirdly, the Cove Learning Trust, when a date is known for a school, will undertake a Section 10 consultation under the Academies Act 2010 to identify any and consult with regarding the proposal for a school. And finally, the Secretary of State, before any decision is made, will carry out another impact assessment before coming to a final decision. And if there's a positive outcome to that, then of course the site will be transferred to them, and that will be, as far as DDC is concerned, essentially the end of the matter for us. We're not in the position, we do not have the expertise to determine other reasons or what impact a new school would have. That is a matter for the DFE and the Cove Learning Trust. It's not a matter for Daventry District Council. Obviously, we have an interest as a council because we want to see an educated and ultimately well-skilled workforce. And of course, we have a duty to ensure that children's life experiences are enhanced and their opportunities out in the real world. And that's basically our concern. That's why we included in our corporate plan the objective of seeking a third secondary school in Daventry. All of the other detail relating to education is essentially beyond our pay grade. And the people that can comment best on that is the DFE and of course the Cove Learning Trust, who will each play a part in that, in the protracted process that is yet to come on this site. So I may come back to that and make it quite clear. We are only the providers of this site to facilitate a school if it is decided ultimately that a third school will go ahead in Daventry.
Thank you, Councillor James. Councillor Rupert Frost, you have your hand raised. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. You made the point at the beginning that it's useful to hear the other perspective, and I just wanted to check that we are going to hear the other point of view, because yeah, we've heard Councillor Randall go through her points, but are we about to hear the counter arguments?
We just heard those, Councillor Frost, from Councillor David James, I believe.
No, I mean, points such as the one made about the, well, I thought we might hear each one dealt with, but I mean,
the point is, sorry, Councillor Frost, just to be clear, the point of this coming to this committee meeting is to decide whether other information should have been presented to the strategy group, whether the questions that Councillor Randall is asking has raised should have been information that the council provided to the strategy group in order for it to make an informed decision. I think that is the main point of the calling from Councillor Randall and Councillor Lomax. So it's not whether they're actually right on those answers. What they're doing is I think they're raising points which may or may not be pertinent to the decision-making process, and it's whether that information should be provided to council in order for it to make a decision.
Sorry, Jan, what I'm trying to say is, do officers such as Simon Bowers accept that Councillor Randall's points are pertinent and true, or are they disputed? Because if they're true, then for me that's got considerable implications about where we go from here.
Yeah. Sorry, Simon. If you could just hold on. If you just want to answer that.
Certainly, I can try and be brief, Chair, but I think it's probably helpful, as Councillor Frost has noted, if I give a brief response to the points that Councillor Randall has made as both the director responsible for the report and indeed its author. Obviously, I have a view about its adequacy, but it'll be you that judges that at the end of the day. I think probably it's worth summarising first. If you consider all the points that Councillor Randall has made in terms of the question about whether the report was adequate, they boil down to two basic points. Should the council have done or do more work on its own on the likely effects of a third secondary school, educationally, and or in terms of its effect on the existing schools? I think that's probably the larger point that Councillor Randall has made. Probably 10 or so of her points effectively boil down to that.
Simon, could I just stop you for a second? Could I just ask everyone to unmute if they're not speaking and aren't controlling the meeting? Because I'm getting lots of feedback. Sorry, to mute, not unmute. Thank you. Thank you. Please proceed, Simon.
Thank you. And the second point, which came towards the end of her list of issues, was about the site being retained for open space. Now, in the context of this S&I committee meeting and the purpose you've outlined, Chairman, in relation to one, the officer position, if you like, is that it's perfectly reasonable for the council to rely on the processes and analysis and decisions taken by the Department for Education. Members don't have to follow them, but it is an authoritative source of advice and guidance. It's quite legitimate for you to follow. And realistically, we're a district council. We're not able, in a sensible way, to second guess the educational judgments of the Department for Education. The Minister has been presented with detailed papers, which we don't get to see, that say that doing the third school will be the right thing to do for Daventry. And we are perfectly entitled to take that on trust that it is the right thing to do, because that is the department's judgment. The report effectively proceeded on that basis, which is why it doesn't go into vast detail about whether Cove Learning Trust is a good provider or not, because the department's process is designed to select good providers that have a good record of setting up schools which function effectively. So there's no point in us trying to second guess that. The other thing to bear in mind on this point is that the decision to pursue a third secondary school is not new. It is established council policy, and all officers were trying to do was implement or offer a way in which that policy could be implemented. And so to the extent Councillor Randall is challenging the council's existing policy, it seems to me that has to fall flat now, because you're supposed to be challenging a new decision, not an existing decision, which is already made and well established, set out in the corporate strategic plan. If we turn to the second point, should the site be retained for use as open space? Council in February adopted the Settlements and Countryside Local Plan that called for the development of that site. So again, there is established council policy that says that site should not be retained as open space. And so it seems to me there is little to go on there in terms of questioning a decision on those grounds, because there is an established policy adopted back in February. And I think that's being fair. I'm not seeking to sort of unfairly characterise the arguments that have been put, but I think they do boil down to those 2 points. And it seems to me they are both dealt with by the report in a perfectly proper way. I could go into detail on every one of the points, but I'm not.
That's fine, Simon. That's a summary. I think your summary covers a counter argument. I have Councillor Ritchie with his hand raised. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chair. I profoundly disagree with what I've just heard from Simon Bowers, and before that from Councillor James. There are issues in which, yes, they might be correct. But we're here as councillors. We're here as representatives of the people of Daventry District, and many of us are here as representatives of the the people of Daventry Town. We're here to decide what it is that we need to know before moving forwards. I don't want to get into the debate about, are we as a district council merely agents to carry out the instructions of a Secretary of State, or to facilitate the work of another academic trust that is based more down in Towcester. Those are not arguments for tonight. This is about, were we given a proper view of what our options were, of the nature of the decisions, of how is it that the officers came to put forward a particular proposal, when for some of us the evidence just does not seem to be there. This meeting has got to be about the evidence.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie, and I think that's what I said at the start. But obviously there is background information around that. I have 3 hands raised, but I'm not sure who it is. So I'll go to Councillor Robertson. Councillor Robertson, you need to unmute your microphone.
Thought I'd done it once. Is that better?
That's better.
Yeah, well, I must say that I profoundly agree with Councillor James and this and the summing up given by Simon Bowers. We are merely a district council. We have no say in what happens in the schools, hardly anyway. We can just express an opinion, nothing more than that. And Councillor James really did sum it up when he said that. There is little point in us doing an in-detail investigation into what is going to happen when we don't have any say in the decision making.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Councillor Wendy Randall, you wanted to say something else?
Yes, thank you, Chair. A point is, if you have got the likes of Guilsborough and Moulton, and they're bursting at the seams, and we're representative of the district, it's like I keep being told, not just Daventry, then why would they choose to put a school somewhere where there's 600 available spaces or thereabouts when a school's bursting with the seams? So no, we haven't got the information we needed. We haven't been told really why have they chose there and not there. Why would you not assist the schools that are bursting to the seams? We have not had that information. We have not had the information from schools. We've been told 1,000 pupils leave Daventry every day. They don't.
Councillor Randall, you have actually made.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
It's been discussed. I understand you're passionate about it, but that has been raised. Councillor James, if you just want to come back, and please don't be repetitive on previous comments, because we've heard what you said already. So unless it's something new.
Just very briefly, I think we have to recognise that the future demand for school places is going to be influenced by not only the developments in Daventry and surrounding area, but also it's going to be influenced by the developments in Warwickshire, for example. There is bound to become a time in the not too distant future when Warwickshire schools say...
Councillor James, sorry, it's just you're going off talking about something, and if you wanted to provide that information then previously, then I think you should have provided it. I think that's part of the issue. We don't want to start getting into other arguments about what ifs and maybes if we haven't actually got the answers on what that is. I mean, no one here knows what the developments are in Warwickshire, and no one has control over it.
We do. We know that rugby's expanding, for example. We know that...
We don't know, okay, but Councillor James, we don't know, we actually don't know what the ramifications of that are, do we? And you don't know what the ramifications are, which is the point that we've just heard from Simon Baz. So that is for another time, unfortunately, isn't it? Or it's part of the...
It is irrelevant that so many school children go out of Daventry to schools in the rest of the county.
Councillor James, I'm going to stop you because this is not part of the discussion. If that was part
of stab with evidence,
Councillor James, unless you're going to point to evidence that you provided in the original report, then I think it's irrelevant for this discussion, apart from the fact that it might have been omitted.
Well, I had the reverse arguments, actually. There was a time when Daventry people, not too long ago, 3 years ago, were complaining that they were unable to send their child to a primary school, and particularly in my ward, but they were unable to have that because there were vacancies at other places, at other primary schools in Daventry.
Thank you, Councillor James. That's not part of tonight's discussion.
No, but it's evidence of what is happening, what is going on. People in primary schools go out of the district, out of Daventry, to the villages, Badby, Newnham, and so on. And this is what's happening in the secondary schools. Now, there has to be a reason for that, and it's a structural reason.
Okay, Councillor James, thank you for your input there. Councillor Lomax, did you wish to add anything to your call in?
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'm now in very much of a dilemma because I think that Councillor Randall has covered very adequately many of the points that I would have made. I believe that the process was flawed because of the lack of clarity in the report and the lack of objective data. And I think we've actually been through that particular aspect of it this evening quite well. What it actually meant, the lack of objective data meant that the recommendation was not supported by an open and well evidenced case. And that is why I supported the call-in. Clarity and openness expected for decision making was absent. The vote on the original report actually indicates the level of concern which councillors felt about that. The data was based on older information, as we've heard adequately from Councillor Randall. And I think that the County Council's new proposed unit at William Parker for an SMEH pupils is a resounding endorsement of that school. And I won't go into the assessments. There are more recent assessments that have been made of the two existing schools because that's already been adequately covered. But what I would say is that, in fact, the report on which we made our decisions in the first place, or the council made its decisions, were full of assumptions about competition improving existing schools, assumptions that pupils would come flocking to a new school. All of these things were unsubstantiated. Yes, we're going to need a new school eventually as the town expands. But again, the evidence base is poor. There is no assessment of the speed of house building, the possible demography of the urban extensions, and the impact on the existing schools was breathtakingly dismissed as sad, and with the hope expressed that pupils and staff would be taken care of. But you've heard that already from Councillor Randall. The schools haven't been asked, so the data and statements have not been verified. due consultation is required for decision making, and in fact the first report said there was no need for extensive consultation and engagement on the principle of a new school because the report was only about site disposal. A breathtaking approach, in my view, to our responsibilities as a council and to our reputation. Then, with an overwhelming majority of responders to the eventual consultation opposing disposal, this was simply dismissed. My own major objection to this proposal as such was on location. And I haven't addressed this directly. I think that's already been done. But the analysis of the alternative sites was, I think, bland and did not fully take into account the prospective sustainable urban extensions. And surely schools should be rooted in their neighbourhoods. Chairman, I think it was a disappointingly flawed and inadequate process, and one which I was glad to call in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lomax. Thanks for your input. Has anyone else got anything to say? Has any other members got anything to say? Sorry, Simon, if you
If I may, I must, again, as director and as the author of the report, the information report was not out of date. It was the most current published data. There are no more current assessments of those schools than were referenced in the report. I can assure you of that. So I do take some exception to it being said that the report contained out-of-date information. It did not. It was current, good data, as current as it exists.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so no one else. If no one else wants to speak, then we've come to the end of the call-in debate, and the question for the S&I committee members is, how do we proceed from here? In essence, what we've been asked to, the call-in has actually asked us to look at what was presented to the strategy group in terms of evidence and policy, and we are here to determine whether that report was actually adequate, suitable for whether it was actually up to scratch and was suitable for purpose for the council to come to that decision. Now, if it's not, then we must make recommendations to council as to how we proceed on this matter. Bearing in mind, we are not here to determine whether or not the land should or should not be disposed of. That is not our decision. That is full council's decision. What our job is to say whether we think that that council has been presented with adequate, pertinent and up-to-date information to come to that decision that emanated from the strategy group. So, members, it's how you want to proceed with a proposal going forward, and of course that is for members of the committee only, not for the additional members. So, do we have anyone that wants to put forward a proposal based on what we've heard tonight? Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would like to propose that this committee believes that the report was adequate and no further action need be taken.
Do you have a seconder?
What else is there?
No seconder on that. I
think Councillor Ritchie wishes to speak, Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Ritchie.
I'm having an awful difficulty with this machine I'm using to attempt to unmute. But if you can hear me, look, I would like to propose. You can hear?
No, it's intermittent. Try again. You've frozen.
Sorry.
You're still frozen, Councillor Ritchie.
I would like to propose that the essential recommendations as to what additional information. Sorry.
Yeah, carry on.
But you know, it should be. It's not this committee is taking a decision on whether or not a school should be built at Easter. My apologies.
Councillor Ritchie.
Is that any better?
Try again with the proposal and keep. Sure
I feel that we're in a position in which the points from Councillor presented as issues to be addressed. Yeah.
Councillor Ritchie, can I ask you, is it possible for you to...
we're in a position
is it
where... I'll tell you what, can I...
Councillor Ritchie, can you hear me?
I can hear you at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Ritchie, can I suggest that you... I know this is this may be a little bit out of procedure. Can I suggest that you try and type the, or is that going to be too difficult for you, in the chat? Or if you have a phone, if you could maybe call
I
in.
think...
through you, Chairman, it might work if Councillor Ritchie turns his video off. He might find he's got enough bandwidth to be able to speak, and because we could hear him before. So I think with video that might work.
Can you do that, Councillor Ritchie?
I'm afraid if you can hear me at the moment, I'm in a hospital ward, a hospital room in which I have no coverage at all on my phone.
If you turn the video, try turning the video off.
Oh, that's Is that any better?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, but very quickly, my recommendation is that the essential requirements put forward by Councillor Randall should be forwarded to the officers to prepare the extra information that is needed, so that we as councillors can have a full debate when the matter comes to the to the next council meeting.
Okay. Do you have a seconder for that, Councillor Ritchie?
Chairman, could I get that one more time?
Councillor Ritchie, say that again.
Yeah. Yes, my proposal is that we're not taking a decision on where a school should be built or if a school should be built. We are listing the bits of information and the analysis and the evidence that we feel that is needed if we as councillors are to take a responsible decision at the next council meeting. And therefore my proposal is that the recommendations or the, if you like, the lists of additional information requested in Councillor Randall's report, that these are things that should be, that should be prepared before a decision is taken at the next council meeting, or at whatever meeting the decision will be taken.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Do you have a seconder for that?
I'm happy to second it.
Councillor Rupert Frost has seconded that decision. So all those in favour, please raise their hand. Councillor Ritchie, you're going to have to confirm that.
Assume my hand is raised, yeah.
That's 2. Councillor Robertson. All those, so that's 2-4. Councillor Robertson. Against, Councillor Robinson?
Against.
Okay. Well, on that basis, then I have to say that that is passed as a proposal to go forward. that officers answer the questions raised by Councillor Randall in her submissions tonight for presentation to the council for it to make its decision on this matter as and when it is on the agenda at that council. I hope everyone's okay with that. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And I'd just like to say thank you for the way you've handled this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Randall, and thank you for your attendance. Please feel free to sit in on the rest of it if you so wish, and the same for you, Councillor Lennox, and the same for you, Councillor Dowds.
I would do,
If
but I'm
not-
on a night shift, so I'm going to have to leave you. Sorry. Thank
Okay.
you. Thanks.
Brilliant.
Night.
All right. Okay. Councillor Ritchie, you still okay? You still with us? Sorry, just bear with me. I'm just going backwards through my papers. I'll be there in a second. Okay, we're all ready to go again. Item 5 on the agenda is a presentation by David James. Councillor James appears to have left the building because part of my decision was really that I think Councillor James should come back to us at the next meeting to represent, as he's highly involved in this one, and possibly maybe that the decisions that we've talked about tonight may be of more interest to us next time. So if everyone's happy, I hope they are, because he's already gone, that we defer Councillor David James' presentation until next time. So I hope everyone's happy with that. So are we all good? No gripes about that? Okay. The next item then is the corporate strategic plan. The Executive Director Community to present the report. So if you'd like to proceed.
Okay.
And members, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Actually, and then make sure that you speak up, because I can't see everybody with the report on the screen. Thank you, Maria. Please carry on.
Can everybody hear me? Oh, Shane, that's good. Okay, so as usual, I'll just run through anything out of the ordinary, amber and red indicators. So on the first page, Q1 for these are green.
Okay, move on to Maria. Concentrate on the on any ambers and reds.
The town centre vision, this one is currently amber. Some update there provided there. Due to COVID restrictions, it's not practical to engage and consult the community with face-to-face workshops and events, so that has delayed the vision engagement process. So that's partly that.
Okay. Are we still planning to do that, or are we planning to not do face-to-face and community events and just do sort of online and say telephone canvassing or whatever?
Yeah, there's just been it's been repurposed. I mean, given our timescales, we need to crack on with this, and during the life of DDC, it's likely we're going to have some sort of COVID issues to be taken into account. So it's currently amber, which means it's on track to get back on track by the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Under the next one, this again is amber. This is the economic development strategy. So the target was to have 31 and 30. So again, because it is anticipated that I'll get caught back up. Our economic development officer is due to retire imminently. I think it might have actually been his last day today, actually, but it is anticipated that it will be back on track by the end of the year.
Thank you. Maria, concentrate on the ambers and reds. Okay, move on to Maria. Concentrate on any ambers and reds.
Under the next one, this again is amber. This is the economic development strategy. So the target was to have 31 and 30. So again, because it is anticipated that I'll get caught back up. Our economic development officer is due to retire imminently. I think it might have actually been his last day today, actually, but it is anticipated that it will be back on track by the end of the year. This next one's green, and this one as well has turned green. Interestingly, this has been, as you can see, a target within the corporate strategic plan since 2019. That's secondary school. Ironically, what we've just been hearing about.
Sorry, Marie, can we just go back to that one a second?
Sorry, somebody's got their they're not muted, so I don't know if anybody was talking, if that was just feedback.
Yeah, I think Councillor Ritchie may be not on mute, but I think he's struggling with it.
Well, I think I'll put it sorted in.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I understand why it's green now. I just double checked on reading that. So please proceed.
So we're back on green there for the national media coverage indicator. Major planning applications look fine. Electric vehicle charging points is currently on red, although you will have noticed they have, I mean, that is entirely to do with lockdown because there's been significantly fewer cars on the road. So then you can see the numbers are very much down on usual usage for the first quarter of the year.
Okay.
Even if levels do go back up again, and when we are seeing an increase, it won't make up for the fact that very few cars were using the car parks at all for the first few months of the year.
I mean, would you say that that's sort of out of our power to try and influence, to try and push that up, or is it just a watch and see?
That's red because it's going to stay red. I mean, that's the annual target is 12,000, having only achieved 1,000 in the first quarter. Even if we pick back up, it's like, you know, it's as things stand currently, we're predicting it we won't meet that target this year, simply because, you know, for a good 6 months of the year, so many fewer cars were using the road and they weren't charging in our charging points. So, again, this one's green. Waste collection, again, looking very good.
Good to see.
The number of action days is red. That is entirely due to the fact it is hugely limited what we can do in terms of community activities. That's not to say that there's nothing happened or going to happen, but you can imagine they are significantly curtailed due to the social distancing and current COVID. Quite right.
Do we think
that said, we do need to do some environmental events though, because we are in the coming months we will be doing more environmental crime initiatives, because we've seen a huge increase in environmental crime, unfortunately. Even months after the household waste recycling centres have reopened, we're still seeing a huge increase in fly tipping, littering and that sort of thing. So we have got authorisation from the Chief Executive to do some there's additional resources in that to do a project to target that.
So we are working on that, and we'll be doing something in there and not just leaving it at red and walking away.
They just won't be action days. We're trying to target in other ways, social media and so on.
Okay. Are we calling them action days?
Oh no, the action days is when you involve the public, and that's what we're clearly there's strict limits on what we can do with that. So yeah, that one is likely to be red all year.
Yeah. Will we see those being reported on that item at future meetings, even though they're not actual action days? We'll hear about what we've actually been doing.
Yeah, I can do that. I can include that in the commentary going forward. If you could take a note of that to remind me, that'd be great.
Yeah, because if it's red, obviously, and we understand why, but if we're doing an alternative, it's good for us to everyone to know, and for that to be reported that we are actually doing something instead of nothing.
We've been doing an awful lot of environmental activity all round, really. Again, the preparation of the planning brief for Everston Hall, that remains red. The drafting of the SPD is underway. It's whether it's done. It's forecast to be red because it won't be ready this year. It's that original deadline.
Do we have any idea? Will that be into the new year? Is that still a plan to get it done before unitary?
I doubt it will be done before unitary, hence it being red. But it will. It's likely to remain a target for West Northamptonshire because we have a duty, obviously, to work with landowners, property owners, to ensure our listed buildings are protected.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this one is green, looking nice and healthy. Self-serve, as you can imagine, as we've seen a big increase in that in the first quarter of the year for obvious reasons. Sport and physical activity, again, that's the COVID impact, reported 0 for the first quarter, and we're likely to see reduced for subsequent quarters. There are a number of activities happening across the county and the district, encouraging safe ways to keep fit and get out and about in a healthy way, but certainly the numbers are down due to COVID-19 through the normal measures.
Just to confirm, we are doing other things to encourage people to undertake physical exercise, which is obviously important.
As much as you can. Certainly, when people are doing it on their own, lots of people are taking up cycling and going for walks every day. They're not things we're facilitating, so they're not captured in our indicators. But if we were going out encouraging people, if we know people were doing walks that we were promoting or whatever, we could capture that. Okay. Care and repair has continued throughout lockdown. We've been monitoring contractors and doing all sorts of things because we hold the county's contractor list. So we made sure everyone's aware of which contractors are operating fully or partially. But the reality is, due to vulnerable clients being nervous about letting contractors in, I mean, this is a vital service. They are allowed to carry on working, but not all clients want people in their homes. And some supply chain issues. We've been progressing work. We are seeing more clients opening up to the idea of letting people in. So the caseload isn't going away. These things have just been delayed. So we've just got a bigger caseload, if you like, going on through, and that's been reported across the whole of the county.
Can I just ask something? Are we giving assurances to possible clients on this that contractors will be fulfilling their duties in terms of hygiene and social distancing and all of the other aspects if they do the work? Yeah.
I mean, it's advice is available from our own team and from all sorts of support agencies. The different companies have got their own health and safety they do. I mean, we're finding it's the barrier isn't that the contractors, once they've gone through the training and they've got the processes in place, they've done their risk assessments, they'll do on-the-spot risk assessments when they need to, when things happen. They're called dynamic risk assessments. But genuinely the barrier is that vulnerable clients have been nervous about letting people in their homes, but we're seeing that loosen up a bit now.
Yeah. What I was saying, Maria, is are we providing sort of information and assurances so people aren't quite so nervous, if like making those assurances to people? That's what.
Yeah, we go out with the contractors. That's part of the care and repair service. The pre-start meetings includes the caseworker. Oh, right. So okay. We're still there, and we've been available to do that all the way through. Right. They've never stopped working, but for a fair amount of time, the clients have just wanted to say, let's wait. With all this going on, they were too worried to be progressing. But that's things are picking up a bit now.
Okay, thank you.
So enforcement interventions, that's very close to being on target for the first quarter, and it's amber because we're expecting it to pick up again. So a slight, we've done a significant reduction in the visits, but we think that's going to pick back up again. When you see how strong the numbers were last year, we think we're going to catch that one up, no problem, during the remainder of the year.
Subject to no more COVID restrictions.
Yeah. I mean, it's really important that you can go out and see private tenants who've got issues or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially,
go out and do the
inspection.
So these are statutory visits, so we have to do those, you know.
Yeah, it'd be disappointing if in current circumstances that people didn't have the best of conditions to live in, being you know, with all the restrictions and everything. It's really, really important. So let's hope that does get back on track.
Yeah, none of our frontline services were stopped. We found safe ways to achieve everything.
Councillor Robertson.
We never shut this. We found a safe way to let people in if we needed to.
Councillor Robertson.
I was going to ask the question: how do we stand if the miscreant, shall I put it that way, refuses to let us in the property because they claim they're isolating? Did you catch that?
Yes, I caught that. I mean, if you've got a particular issue, then that is precisely the sort of thing that the environmental health team would give a private landlord advice about. So yeah, they can give advice about that. It is my understanding that even if a family is self-isolating, if somebody needs to have their annual gas check, that doesn't prevent that happening. You make sure that you keep social distance, and that can go ahead.
So we still do have a statutory right of entry to people's premises, even though they're isolating. Is that what you're saying?
That's my understanding, but like I said, you'd get my team are there to give advice. They're up to date in it and dealing with this in businesses and houses everywhere every day. I'm not. So yeah, direct your questions through to Karen and Ed, and they will answer them all. But yeah, that's my understanding. Nothing stops.
Thank you.
Nothing has stopped. So yes, the West Northants plan is on contract, so no longer red. So I've got two mice here, mouses.
Mice.
I just grabbed the wrong policy for that. Meese, yeah, Meese. It's called Meese. Voluntary Sector Services Commissioned. Now this is a funny one because actually we have had absolutely fabulous support from Daventry Volunteer Centre. The COVID-19 response in Daventry District has been fantastic, and frankly, all of our frontline services, particularly in housing and the way we've supported adult services and health, would not have been possible without the Volunteer Centre and all the existing and new volunteers that they have coordinated. But other voluntary services had, shut up shop fairly early on, and they were responsible for a lot of the big numbers on these, like DACT. So that's why although we've absolutely seen a fabulous response in Daventry District, that first quarter being bright red, and it's going to stay bright red, frankly, because of you think every time somebody has goes on a DACT minibus or gets a lift to hospital or a doctor's appointment or what have you, all of those count up as usages, and for a big chunk of the year that service stopped, and also shop mobility. So it's took a big hit because of the community transport, and an element also because of Daventry Contact. Although Contact were mainly closed, I'm delighted to report that they carried on working with us behind the scenes, so that whenever we had a vulnerable client who we needed support to house, they were there working even weekends to help us get them into a property with the furniture and household goods they needed. So yeah, we've got, despite what these numbers will tell you, the voluntary sector in Daventry District has absolutely stepped up to the mark. It's just not in accordance with these, you know, our long-standing measures, which are about the services we commission.
I think it's a real shame that that one is red, because I mean, I haven't got numbers, but I was just at the farmers market on Sunday, just talking to some of the people, and you know, the workers from the volunteer centre has been absolutely outstanding. You know, people just saying what a totally invaluable job it is done, and you know, a lot of people have stepped up to the mark on this, as you said, and it's a bit sad to see it in red, but we understand why, I think.
We had thousands of volunteers across the county, and the good neighbour schemes that we'd put in place in Daventry District, really good practice. I mean, one of the best performers across the county. They absolutely were a key part of the emergency response from day one. You know, they were the reason people were getting food parcels and were getting contacts, you know, weekly, and weren't feeling isolated, and we're getting their prescriptions, and when we're getting the newspapers and getting the post delivered and all sorts. So yeah, it's been an absolutely wonderful silver lining through this horrible national emergency.
And I know, for instance, DACT are trying to get back on the go, aren't they? But obviously they can only got total restrictions on how many people they can have in the buses. So even if they, you know, even operating 100% the same as before, it's half the number of people. So.
And one of their big risk factors was just the age profile of their volunteers, of their core volunteers. So that, you know, and that is often a risk factor for a voluntary organisation. So yeah, it's I couldn't present that without actually saying big up the voluntary sector in Daventry District, notwithstanding that measure, because it's been an absolutely tingly experience from our point of view, all of us working with them. It's just been a fabulous joint effort. And parish, again, the parish councils and community groups, we've not been able to support them doing events. This is what it boils down to, and activities in the way that we would have done. But we have seen lots of new informal groups setting up, and lots of volunteers everywhere. There's new food banks, there's new all sorts. So it's a shame this page is showing red, because actually the practice on the ground, that's why you should always, you know, read the story behind the statistics.
Thank you.
Because that's just what we happened to be measuring before. We didn't know this is what was going to happen. Council tax collected has taken a bit of a hit, and that is very much the start of the start of the impact from we've seen an increase in benefit claims and that sort of thing, and likewise the impact on non-domestic rates collected as well.
Why do we expect the domestic one to not be in red?
Because it's so far away from being on target. So even if we performed well for the rest of the year, that is such a big change from target that you'd have to go something to get
But we
back from that.
We expect domestic to be back into green, do we?
No, domestic is red.
Oh,
at
sorry,
the moment, yeah, the other way around. It was the council tax one, very close.
So I mean, the council tax is, yeah, we expect that to be in green. Sorry, that's what I meant by domestic.
It could well be. It's because of the percentage within target, and it could well go green again. But I suppose we'll have to see what happens in the next quarter.
Okay.
Don't forget there were additional payments and grants for the most vulnerable council taxpayers as part of the package of scheme from the government. So that may have helped some of that.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly the business grants has had a big hit.
Understandably.
Income from commercial rents is
Councillor
slightly down.
Sorry, Maria, I've just seen a raised hand from Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to comment on that position there with council tax. The fact is that the entire country has 11% of people have not paid or are not up to date with their council tax, and in Middlesbrough, 31% are not up to date with their council tax. So anything better than national average is going to be considered to be on target or better.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson.
So income from commercial rents is slightly down, but it's not a million. You know, we have had similar first quarters, so that is showing us amber currently. Council owned commercial floor space occupied is up on last quarter. We've still got a very high proportion of properties that are rented out, so there's no amber on this page. What's this? Okay, so this is the overall indicator, this one, isn't it? That's it. Sorry, the scale must be too big. Oh yeah, sorry, the reserves. Apologies, I thought I'd got these scales sorted. So the reserves are looking fine, so no problem there financially, even though obviously there has been some expense related to all the activities in recent months. The reserves are still looking healthy, and the health and safety recommendations that are actioned in a timely manner, there's an explanation there as to why that's gone amber currently.
Okay. I think we're okay on that, Maria. Thank you.
Okay. What that's the IOP assessment, that one, investors in people. I think that's the only one on my page. I'll just double check. Oh, staff survey results.
Right.
So that's a good workplace wellbeing.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got we're in a very strong position on workplace wellbeing, and then the narrative there explains about we've recently done a staff survey which had 80% response rate, and lots of questions around, because obviously lots of people have worked in a new way with significant home working for most people. So that's been a very positive exercise as well.
Right, can I just sort of ask on that, on staff wellbeing? I mean, it surprises me a little bit with Unitary coming along with the levels of uncertainty. Is that just not reflected in the questionnaire? Because I would expect people to be a little bit sort of worried and maybe possibly disenfranchised with the current turmoil of local authority work.
It's not what we're experiencing. I mean, it's very much the feel is at the moment, all hands to the pump. We're getting on with the day job. We're getting on with the emergency work, and you know, people are engaged in the local government reform process. Teams are involved in that. So
well, good to hear. That's really, really, yeah. That's good to hear. Thank you.
It's really not feeling like a negative place right now.
That's great.
We want to be as positive and you know, we want our culture to pervade the new organisation. That's what we're all aiming for, I think.
Nice to hear. Nice to hear.
Percentage of customers satisfied is still good and strong. Oh, actually, so we've got no data for that one because the sample size. So we were closed to the public for the face-to-face one, but we have done the telephone data. So we're not showing the full data, but we do know from the elements of the survey that we did do that satisfaction levels are still sustained. And remarkably, even though we've got fewer people on the phones, so we can achieve social distance in the call centre, our call collect rate is pretty good as well. So we're getting through to most customers. We haven't got a high drop rate or anything like that. So it's not looking too bad. As you can see on there, 92% satisfaction. April to June on the telephone satisfaction survey is pretty good with all this going on.
Yeah.
So health and safety audit recommendations, that's a green one. We're nearly at the end now. So we are red because we are down to 73% on an 80% target. And maybe there'll be some movement in that, but with the COVID effect, we may well end up overall staying red on the corporate strategic plan this year.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, extenuating circumstances and all that. So thank you for that, Maria. We all okay with that, everybody? No additional questions. So we move on to item 9, which is assignment 32, which is Councillor Harrington Carter's assignment. I haven't received anything from Councillor Harrington Carter. I will be writing to her explaining that she does need to have. I was really pleased with last meeting's input, but I have been chasing her up and haven't heard anything. So I will be chasing her up on that one for.
We can't hear you at all. I couldn't hear you at all then. Your
sorry.
sound quality.
I can barely hear you, Maria.
Yeah, it's all getting a bit intermittent. Yeah, I have heard nothing from Councillor Harrington Carter. I didn't get any apologies and haven't had any updates. So I will be writing to her to request an urgent update on that in more than good time for the next meeting. So apologies for that, committee, that we haven't actually got that one. So Councillor Robertson, I think you did submit a report earlier today on that. If it's probably, considering where we are with the members actually here, I've now got, I think, can you hear me? It's saying my speaker's not working.
Barely hear you, barely.
Sorry?
Very intermittent.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Just hold on. I'm not sure what. Yeah, it's just saying.
It's better anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just saying that there's issues with it, and yeah, it's just saying it's not working. So, Councillor Robertson, can I suggest? I know I would like to get this done and dusted, but I will get that template sorted, and if you could chuck it into that, or unless we could ask somebody to do it for us.
Well, I think, Chairman, I've now actually found it because I've had severe technical problems myself here at home, and so the blank template did arrive, but I didn't have time to use it. So,
okay. So can I ask that that is presented? If you could put that together as soon as possible in the correct template, in the format, and then we'll pick it up next time. I hope everyone's happy with that. Councillor Frost, are you happy with that? Okay, we'll do that. If we could note that in the minutes, then that would be good.
Basically, if you want me to outline it now, I can, Chair.
We'll carry on. I think I'm having audio difficulties as well. So this is not turning out to be a great meeting in the end with techie stuff. So I prefer really to be able to discuss it correctly. Councillor Ritchie, due to various reasons, has given his apologies on this one. Ill health and work on some other projects has actually taken him away from that. So I'll be reminding Councillor Ritchie that he's got some work to do on that for next time. Councillor Frost, I think you have a scoping document to present to us, don't you? Do we have that shareable?
It's I've got a paper version. I could.
No, I'm just asking officers if we've got that as a shareable document tonight. No. Okay. I don't quite know what to do here. Then I was hoping that I thought that had been sent through as a document for sharing. So I'm not quite sure how it's best to proceed on that. Do you want to go through it? Do you want to go through it verbally, Councillor Frost?
Very happy to.
Excuse me, Chair. It is page 11 of the agenda pack.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Is it not possible to share it as well? Sorry, my fault.
I've not got an electronic copy here.
Okay, no problem. We'll do it like this. We'll do it. Continue, Councillor Frost.
So yeah, it is on page 11. I can read it if that would be helpful. Is that how these things work?
Yeah, if we just go, let's just go through. So so Richard August, the portfolio holder.
Yeah. So what I've suggested is that that we start it next month, that we complete it next February.
Okay.
And in terms of the milestone dates, can you and I take this up after the meeting, or would you prefer to get this?
Yeah, I mean, I would sort of, basically, I would just tie it in around these meetings,
okay,
around the meeting schedule, Councillor Frost. So, if you've got a start date and an end date, so what we've got to look at. I'll catch up with you. I'll catch up with you tomorrow on that. I hope we're okay with that, officers, and then we'll fill that in as we go backwards and forwards. But if you could have it in mind that obviously there's X number of meetings between now and February, so you've pretty much got to get this this out for sort of Christmas time, really. So but we'll go through that at some. I'll just go through the schedule and send you what I think on that one, if that's okay.
Sure. So yes, I said the task aims were to assess all aspects of Daventry District Council's response to the COVID-19 crisis. The objectives would be to produce a document highlighting any lessons that can be learned from DDC's handling of the current crisis, which can be passed on to the new authority. Not included in the scope, I put any national rules and regulations that have been implemented in the district, the logic being that it's nothing to do with us. Task panel purpose and value of work, to collaborate and agree on the optimal ways that the new authority might respond to a similar future crisis. The background, problems and issues, I've said earlier this year, all councils found themselves in unprecedented times and to make decisions expeditiously without the benefit of hindsight. In that context, there are bound to be measures which the new authority would want to do differently. God forbid we find ourselves in this situation again. In terms of the outputs, I put formal proposals to be delivered to the West Northampton Shadow Executive.
I think
Yep.
we should actually say that that's to you. Well, we need to output that to Daventry District Council, don't we?
Sure.
Sorry, Maria, what's that? We've got a shared screen. Yeah, I think that should be.
I found the wrong document.
Sorry?
I found the wrong document.
Yeah, it should be. Obviously, you're reporting back for scrutiny to report through to the strategy group or to council. So if it's done by February, that should really be to Daventry District Council for taking on for consideration to go forward to West Northampton.
I see what you're saying. So that needs changing, doesn't it?
I think so. Would you agree, Maria? You're muted.
What's it?
Sorry. Maria, you're muted.
My technical issues know no bounds this evening. Yeah, I was trying to find the document. Could you repeat the question again, please?
Yeah, I said task output. So Councillor Frost says formal proposals to be delivered to the West Northamptonshire Shadow Executive. I said really that should be to scrutiny to provide information to the strategy group, shouldn't it?
Yeah, to strategy group and then council. you know, the remit of this of scrutiny improvement is to report to this council, not to Western Plants.
I mean,
fine, and there's no, that does make sense. There's no problem.
The output will be observations and recommendations as well, obviously.
Sure. Shall I make those changes and run them by you and Maria tomorrow, or how should we do this?
I think that's documented in this meeting, so yeah. We'll just carry on with it. Let's just carry on.
It's going to happen. Yeah.
If you just change your note it on your document, and then as we progress with it, then that will be updated.
Okay, I will.
Okay, I mean, as far as I mean, officers go, this is fairly broad ranging. So I'd said you'll probably be needing to talk to pretty much the whole team. Would that be correct, Maria, or is there a coordinating voice in the district council that Councillor Frost could be speaking to?
With regard to, it's probably speak to the emergency planning lead, which would be Kevin Fagan, would probably be the ideal person to coordinate this. Okay, so it's best if Councillor Frost speaks to Kevin Fagan as a first stop, who may direct him into other areas if and provide him with the best staff to speak to on that basis. Yeah. Obviously, Councillor Frost, you can also talk to portfolio holders, other councillors, as you suggested as well. So does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Did you intend to try and recruit anyone else to help you with this task? Any other councillors?
Well, let me risk of answering a question with a question. Do the procedures, require me to? Is that it would be good practice for me to do so? That was why I didn't sort of fill it in, because I wanted to.
It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. If you feel that I mean, if you feel that it's easiest done by yourself, or if you've got a colleague that's really interested in doing it, then you can also help. It's entirely up to you.
I'm just putting this out for discussion, really. I'll take advice from you guys, but yeah. Unless I'm mistaken,
personally, I would say I would actually just put it out there as a request/question. Does anyone want to assist me with this? Because it may be that there is another councillor out there that this is dear to their heart and would like to actually be part of it. So it's quite good to ask that question.
I'll certainly do that. I'll certainly ask.
So if you do an email to all councillors and sort of say this is what we're looking at, and just reiterate why you think it's important going forward, because I think personally I do think it's a really important piece of work. So
quite. If I can just air a concern I've got. If I do that and I get, let's say, half a dozen responses, my only concern is that it's we're up against it time-wise, and if I find myself in a situation where let's say there could be half a dozen or more people that really want to get actively involved, it could make a difficult schedule.
Yeah, Councillor Frost, I understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, it's your choice. It's your choice who you have on your team, really. And you might have to say to somebody, actually, I'm happy with a team of 2 or a team of 3, and this is the way that I'm going. I wouldn't worry about offending people on that one. But you can always just ask for their inputs, and they can give them, and you can ignore them if you wish, if you see what I mean. So there's no harm in asking that, but by all means, if you want to run with it yourself, then that is absolutely fine.
Yeah, not that I would just want to run it myself. I just don't want to cast the net out.
Yeah, but if you look at it that you're managing it and chairing that, then but obviously if you get someone to help you, then you could just got to chase them up and make sure that they get the information back to you as quickly as possible. So
thanks for your help in that.
Okay. So Robertson, you got any comments on this? On as far as it is? No.
No, thank you. No, thank you, Chair. No, I'm happy. I was going to say that basically I've got the paperwork in front of me, so there was no need for Rupert to read it out.
That's fine. Maria, is there any officer comments that we should be taking into account on this?
If you want to let me have a look at the revised draft, I'll make sure that's circulated to S&T and relevant officers, and we can comment on that, because it was only circulated in the last couple of days, wasn't it? So
okay, yeah.
I haven't had anything back there.
If you do, if you could feedback that to me and Councillor Frost as well, just so we can hone it down, maybe hone it down a little bit or whatever, if that's all right. Okay, is that okay, Councillor Frost?
You're wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So you're happy to carry on, and we'll talk about where you'll be in the next meeting tomorrow. I'll give you a call.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So we'll do item 8, which is information activity. Are you going to go through these for us?
Sorry, Chair. The audio is completely breaking up now. I haven't heard a thing for a couple of minutes.
I don't know what to do really. I've just done a check again, and mine's saying it's all right. I don't know what's going on.
I'm pretty sure my bandwidth's pretty good. I've got 300 megs here, so
right. Maria, can you try speaking to us?
Yeah, it does. It's sort of. Can you hear me now?
It keeps.
Can you hear me?
No. This is not very good, is it? It's this is the.
Okay. It just says it's unstable. Can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me now, Councillor? No.
And you keep freezing as well.
Yeah. Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you now, but I couldn't before.
Right. Give it another go, Maria.
Can you hear me now?
That was okay. Let's give it another go.
I haven't got much to add to the report, to be honest, councillors. There's one item remaining, and that's not due to be completed until December.
Okay.
And although this is down to me, actually responsibility has changed since this task panel completed. So it would be one for Tony going forward. But there is just the one outstanding one on there.
Right, we're talking about here implementation activity, aren't we? I mean, there's quite a lot of reds on the environmental one, isn't there?
Okay. Yeah, this is where I didn't hear which one you're on because the sound went.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about. I'm just sorry. Were you talking? Oh, I see what you said. I understand what you're saying now. You're talking about assignment 20, yeah?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I thought you meant across the whole report.
Yes. So assignment 20. Nothing to add to the report. One remaining action that isn't due till December.
Okay.
Similarly, assignment 26, again, that one isn't due until December. All the other actions are due.
Okay.
Assignment 20, again, that action is due in December. It has commenced, but there's a warning there that that may be delayed due to COVID-19.
Okay.
The anti-social behaviour strategy review.
All right.
And then the others, I mean, you can read this climate emergency one at your leisure. We are making positive progress, and we as before, we use red text to show which ones have been updated. So, and for ease of reference, at the end of the climate emergency one, we're updating the RAG status. So you can see that, you know, we've now gone up to 19 have gone green, 18 amber, 15 red. Even since this was published, a couple more have changed colour in the right direction.
Yeah, I think
that's probably as much as I.
Councillor Robertson.
I was just going to state that COVID-19 seems to be the only, sorry, not COVID-19, but global climate change seems to be the only winner out of this situation that we're in at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now listen, I mean, I think I'm sure if Councillor Ritchie was still here with us, I don't mean that in a, I shouldn't really say that as he's in hospital, should I? If you be with us at the meeting, I'm sure he'd be disappointed that there's any red in here at all, and we probably all should be, but we understand that it was a very, very complex piece of work, and let's hope we can get some sensible updates next time when we can hear properly. So yeah. So,
on tomorrow's management team agenda, we've got the county-wide climate change strategy. So there is progress all the time. We haven't, even with the emergency going on, we have not let our hands off the wheel on this one. So this is progressing.
Councillor Frost, are you happy? Because I know you were an integral part of this as well.
I don't know about that, but yes, absolutely, yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move on then, Maria. Okay. Item 1-year post-implementation activity reviews. This was sent to me, wasn't the assignment 17 of the commercial property to provide an update on that. Yeah. Not that one.
I heard none of it. This is hopeless.
Yeah, that. Okay. I'll run through this. Can you hear me, everybody?
I can now, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I'm assignment 17, review of empty commercial properties. I'm providing the update. Here we are. Here we are. Hopefully you can all see the shared screen now. So this is the review of the previous task, as you all know. If you have a look at recommendation number 1, hyperlinks are available for agencies. I'll tell you what, I won't read. If you can everyone read it on the screen? Right. Okay. My comments on this were, I tried myself doing a Google search on this, and it's actually quite well optimized. It comes fairly well. It comes fairly high on the Google search list, which is quite pleasing. but the external database would seem to be a more comprehensive option, which was recommended. Although there's a resource issue, I think maybe we could do a little bit more work on this. It was recommended that there's a database and hyperlink. So I'm saying that no, that's not implemented yet in full and needs more work on it. Likewise, for recommendation number 2, I couldn't see any evidence of regular liaison and report process focusing on property, which is having a detrimental effect on the whole locality. Although there are some landlord meetings. So again, I'm saying that that's not yet fully implemented. Item 3 is also ongoing, and item 4 is also ongoing. And I'll make some notes at the bottom. There's a grant application which is in at the moment to regenerate the Daventry High Street. I'm not sure on the total progress on that, but I know that is ongoing. So my overall comment is that this assignment has been business as usual, with little initiative to activate it. Criticism is muted because there's not a major vacancy issue at this point. But in the current environment of reduced economy, we should be planning for the worst, doing our best to be in a position of being able to act in any way that we can. I also note that actions are expecting to be centre focused and not as opposed to looking at property around the whole district. I feel this is an omission and should be attended to. So I'm proposing that we request from officers in the portfolio holder that they do have another look at this assignment and report back to the Scrutiny Committee next time. I'm just wondering whether you two are in agreement with that. If you could say yay or nay, put your hand up, or
No, I agree.
Or any other comments.
I think I agree with that. I read it whilst you were intermittently talking.
Councillor Frost?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we could minute that, officers, and I'll pass a note to Councillor James as well on our observations on that, and he can and hopefully he can take that up for us. Is that okay with you guys? Seem to have lost Maria.
I was just trying to see if the camera being turned off made a difference to the sound. It didn't.
Okay. All right. So I'll write a note to David, Councillor David James, on that, and then see where we are. What happens next? Assignment 21. Can DDC do? Is this the next one to do? Can you hear me, Maria?
Yes, Chairman, I think I circulated a note around to all the councillors about this one. Did I?
I didn't see it.
Did I just send it to you, Catherine?
Are we talking about 9B?
9B.
That's one that's due for a 1-year post-implementation review, and so that needs to be, somebody needs to take that on to report to the next meeting.
Right, I'll take that one on again if the other members are okay with that.
Sorry, Chairman, I thought we were talking about 21 homelessness.
We are.
Okay, beg your pardon. While we're on the topic of homelessness, there was an action in the minutes of the last meeting that I would update members on the audit from last time. That's why, and that was regarding homelessness. And it now has full assurance, Chairman.
Yeah, that was circulated, wasn't it? Yeah. So I'm happy that that was circulated. So that was fine. Thank you for reminding me on that one. Suggestions for new task panels. I actually, Councillor Robertson, you've still got yours to finish, haven't you?
Yes, well, I'm very conscious that basically we're anything that we do from now on is going to be short and sweet, because we're getting closer and closer to.
I'm going to defer. I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to leave that one until next time, because it's Councillor Robertson that hasn't got one to do, and it maybe there's some assistance items, because time is running out for us. So maybe there'll be a short, sweet one to do next time, unless anyone has got anything to come up with now, because I haven't.
Not offhand. I'll give it some thought on this when the next meeting comes up.
Okay. Item 11. I'm not quite sure what that is.
I'm on that committee.
Excuse me, Chair, I think that's what you just discussed earlier, the audit, homelessness audit, that's now been completed.
Yeah, okay, that's fine then. Thank you, Catherine, that's really, really helpful. Portfolio attendance, I'll ask Councillor David James to attend the next one in abeyance of tonight's meeting, if everyone's happy with that.
Yeah.
If we minute that, please. And I don't have any urgent business unless officers have any urgent business that should be drawn to our attention. No? Whoa. Well, thank you, guys. It's been challenging tonight, hasn't it? So we'll call the meeting to a close.